Hello, my name is Dr. Adeline Leon. Thank you for joining me today. Today I will be talking about how to maintain work-life balance and redefining productivity in this age of COVID-19. And so, as many of us find ourselves with completely different lifestyles from what we were used to just a few months ago, and I'll be talking about how we can best adjust to this new normal, some of the challenges that many of us may be facing, and I'll be giving you 10 strategies and tips for how to overcome these times and maintain your mental health, and also ensure that you are able to be as productive as possible at work, whatever your situation may be for your job right now. And so I do want to acknowledge that there are differences right now. You can separate people broadly into those who are fortunate enough to be working at this time. I think can be separated broadly into two groups. The first one being those who are essential workers. And so for those individuals, the concerns are about obviously contracting the virus and passing it on to others and loved ones. And also many essential workers may feel torn between a sense of duty to their job or financially needing the job, and also one's own safety and the safety of those around them. And so I'll be more focused on the second group for this talk, which is the group that find themselves maybe all of a sudden and unexpectedly working from home. And so with working from home, especially in the way that many people may have experienced it, where it may have been somewhat abrupt, or may have been in a situation in which it's unsure how long this will be going on. And so some of the challenges with that may be that parents who find themselves not just working from home, but working from home with children that they now need to homeschool, with a spouse who is now home all the time. And I'm sure you've maybe heard a lot or seen a lot in the media right now about the effect of coronavirus and how it's affecting relationships. And that's a realistic concern. And so that could be a lot of stress that's being induced by that. You also have potentially pets who are home, who you now are caring for 24/7 without, for children and pets in particular, without the option of having maybe doggy daycare, or having the option of daycare for the children and school and babysitters. And so that's definitely an added stress. And so and then there's also household duties. I'll be focusing a little bit on that as well, in terms of the tips that I provide for you and ways to separate all of these components of our home, spouse, children, pets, household duties, that are now blended together with our work duties. And then there's also the difficulty of being at home and having the expectation of doing one's typical job, but without office supplies. In a typical office, if you run out of any supplies, you just put in an order for it, and that's not the case when you're working from home. And so that may range from not having one's own private office that one may be used to, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, not having the camaraderie of having coworkers who may just be a few steps away, not having the technological resources that one has at work, and so if at home you may have multiple people using up the internet access, and though that can slower internet, that makes it difficult if your job requires you to be connected to video platforms like Zoom, and that may slow that down. Versus at work, if you have any issues like that, just call up IT and they'll come over and fix it for you. And so that's definitely a change. And then materials that are specific to one's job. And so for myself, I'm a neuropsychologist. And so neuropsychologists, what they do essentially is that they do testing for individuals who have concerns about any type of cognitive impairments. That could range from Alzheimer's, dementia, after a brain injury, after a stroke, seizures, things like that. And so neuropsychologists, we give very specific protocols that I don't have at my home, because I don't normally do testing at my home. And so things like that I think are very specific to one's job, that can be a challenge right now in terms of how to do your job at home and how to maintain some sense of normalcy when doing that. And then I can't leave out, of course, the obvious stress of COVID-19 and the uncertainty about one's job status. That could range from, will I be furloughed? I don't have that much work to do. Will I be laid off? I see there are budget cuts coming. When will my work return to normal? And not knowing how long this state will last, and the stress that comes with that can make this even more difficult to cope with. And like I mentioned earlier, for essential workers, also for those working from home, there is still concern about contracting the virus and affecting others in the home as well. And so that's a concern for everyone. And so all of this stress can make it very challenging to focus and to concentrate on one's work. And I will repeat that several times throughout this talk, because it bears repeating. It can be easy sometimes to forget what we're all coping with, and to forget that there is a lot going on, and there is a lot that can affect one's ability to remain focused on our work. And so if I can leave you with just one tip at the end of this talk, if you leave with just one piece of information, I would say that it is to practice self-empathy with yourself. And so if the expectation that you have for yourself is to maintain the same high level of productivity that you may have had in the office, if you see that you're not, that's okay. There's a lot that you're focusing on, and having a lot of your concentration and thoughts taken up by a global pandemic and the risks that come along with that makes it so that it is virtually impossible to maintain that same high level of productivity that you may have had in the office. And so if you do leave with anything, I do definitely want to remind everyone about that. And so the stress that comes along with that, it is not any indication of weakness on anyone's part. There are constant news alerts about COVID-19. It does seem to be constantly evolving and changing. And so having that in the background and having easy access, I think, to the news, because we don't have a clear boundary and separation between work and home, can also make it difficult. We're all spending extra time and energy in terms of planning things that are very typical, normal part of our lives. Grocery shopping. A grocery trip now can be a very stressful decision. Should I go grocery shopping? Should I have things delivered? if I go, should I go alone? Should I take my children? Is that safe for them? Do I wear a mask? Do I wear gloves? Should I clean off all of my groceries? All of these are factors that we never had to think about when going grocery shopping before. Worries or concerns about getting sick, or a family member getting sick, or maybe you already know a family member or a friend or loved one who has been sick, and concerns about how they're doing, how they're coping, how their ability to recover from it. And so a lot of us can feel conflict between a need to feel productive, pressure, and that could be outside pressure or internal pressure. Pressure to be productive, and surviving a pandemic. And so that's not an easy balance to have. So that's productivity. I want to do my work, and I want to be good at my job, and I want to know that I'm needed at work, versus I'm coping with a global pandemic. That's not an easy conflict to cope with. And that conflict can lead to feelings of guilt. If I focus on my work and my child is crying, oh, I'm a bad mom. But if I am caring to my child and I don't get my assignments done at work on time, then I'm a bad worker. And so this constant back and forth of that guilt and fear of not doing well at work or at home, or both. And so with all of that said, I preface the talk by setting the stage, because I really want to, before even getting into the tips that I have to help with work productivity and creating boundaries between work and home, I really want to make sure that everyone is aware of everything that you're coping with, and it's a lot. And so first wanted to make sure that I spoke about that briefly. But here are some of the tips that I have. I have 10 tips and strategies to help with productivity when working from home, and particularly helping with productivity in the age that we're living in right now with COVID-19. And so first, it's important, as best as you're able to confine your workspace to a specific area in your home. Ideally, this would be a separate room. I completely acknowledge that not everyone has that luxury, and that's okay. But in order to make sure that you do have a separate space, it may require some creativity on your part. That may even be rearranging furniture, rearranging the setup that you have right now in your home. Because as we've seen right now, and as I mentioned, we don't know how long this will go on. And so initially, maybe some people might have thought that this was only going to last a week or two working from home. But now that we do see that it's potentially a longer lasting situation, then it does seem worth it to make some of those bigger changes. And so, for example, you could take your dining room and make that into a space just for you. And then if you have a child that needs to do homework or listen to videos or classes, they can do that in their room. Your spouse can be in the other room, in an office. I give those examples just to say that it does not have to be a separate room, although of course that would be ideal. If you are having to choose a room that's not a separate bedroom, then as much as possible, try to choose a room that doesn't have too much foot traffic. And so if it's a back room where people don't really pass through very much, that would be best. My second tip is to try to block out as much as possible any excessive noises. So that could mean if there's a neighbor who plays music all the time, if there's your dog that's barking, if your children are playing loudly. And so if you can, if possible, have a space where you are away from those noises, that would be great. But if you're not able to do that, then you could play. You could have headphones in, where you're playing ambient sounds, kind of like ocean waves or the woods, whatever your preference is. And there is some research that shows that that those sounds boost concentration, and they actually lower blood pressure as well. Number 3 is to establish good mental boundaries between work and home. And so, and I specifically separate mental and physical boundaries. I'm first starting off with mental boundaries. So if you're working at home, you're just steps away from loading the dishwasher, doing laundry, making dinner. It's right there. And so why wouldn't you start it? As much as possible, mentally, you have to get in the mindset that you're in the office as much as possible. When you're in the office, you're not doing laundry because you can't. You're not at home. And so really make sure that you designate those times, those work times, and stick to them. If you decide to work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., stick to that. So between those hours, you're only doing work. Take a break, take a lunch break as you would at work, and during that lunch break, you can make a salad for yourself. You can walk the dog if you'd like, but in terms of those actual work hours, dedicate them only to work. And so on the opposite side of the spectrum, also make sure that when the workday is over, the workday is over. And again, it's pretty easy. Your work computer's right there. All your materials are right there. Oh, I can do a little work on Saturday. I can just catch up and get some more work done. Really, it's very, very important for your mental health and making sure that you're not feeling overly burdened and stressed to do work only during those work hours, just as you would in the office. I think some of us, even in the office, may not have those great boundaries, but as much as possible, if you can develop those right now, then this is a good time to do it. And so number 4, the next tip that I have is to establish good physical boundaries so that your work area is off limits to others in the home. Again, it's important to keep a regular schedule, a regular work schedule. And so as much as possible, and I acknowledge that some, especially who are caring for children, you can't completely do this, but as much as you can, it might be with limitations. Making sure that you're not doing anything that you wouldn't do if you were in the office. So for example, if you're in the office, depending on what kind of job you have, chances are that you're not taking phone calls from people all day. Maybe if it's an emergency, maybe if it's a doctor, you might take that phone call, but chances are you're not taking phone calls from people all day. And so it's also important to spell out these boundaries with others in your home, with friends, family, and loved ones who may be calling you and saying, oh, so-and-so's working from home. I can just call them. It's okay. It's not. You're working. You're still working. And so that might involve having a conversation with others and making sure that that's clear. I definitely advise with cell phones. Cell phones are the biggest distraction. There's phone calls, social media, there's the internet, there's your email, there's shopping, there's so much. So as to the extent that you can, I recommend putting your phone on a silent mode and having it out of sight. Out of sight. There is a lot of research that shows that just having your phone within eyesight makes it much more difficult to concentrate. And so the point of doing that is to make it so that you forget that your phone even exists. It's not there. And so if it's not there, then you won't be focused on it. So that's number 4, was the physical boundaries. Number 5 is related to that. But put away any work tools or any electronic devices when you're not working. And so I already mentioned the one about the cell phone and putting that away and out of sight. But also, you can kind of think of it as a carpenter. So, a carpenter has a toolbox, he has a tool belt. And so a carpenter will put away the toolbox when he or she is done with their carpentry. And so think of it that way. If you have all of your office supplies, all of your work notes, work documentation, whatever it may be, if it's always out, then it's always there, it's always visible, it's always accessible. And so making sure that once you're done for the day, the same way that when you're in the office, you leave the office and you go home and your office environment, your desk, your supplies are out of sight because you're no longer in the office, you want to try as much as possible to recreate that same sensation while you're working from home. If you have a home office, then that's great, because then you just leave the home office, and in that office, in that room, that's what you do. You just work, and you don't enter that room to do anything else. If you're not fortunate enough to have a home office, then putting away all of your things. And so if you have a certain work bag where you put your papers, if you have a desk where you have drawers to file away your papers, do that at the end of each work day. And then when you go back the next morning, take everything out, just as you would if you were in the office. So number 6 is to discourage any personal intrusions. And so for others in the home, making sure that you establish strict rules. And this goes not just for yourself, but for everyone in the home, for your children especially. I think you can also use a lot of these tips for helping your kids focus on their schoolwork as they're doing that, or maybe watching videos at home. And so no interruptions unless it's an absolute emergency. You can have a sign up where you say, this is my work time, and I'll be available from this time to this time. You can think of it kind of like professors who have office hours. And so professors, they're not accessible 24/7. If you'd like to go and speak to a professor for a bigger concern, and you'd like to sit down and talk to him or her, you have to make an appointment during the office hour. You have to make an appointment or go during the office hours. And so you can think of it that way. You can have office hours at this time. So from this time to this time, I'm free for anything. It may sound strange, but even if your spouse or child just wants to send you a quick message, then maybe just sending you a message electronically that way. The 7th tip that I have is to, as much as possible, take advantage of technology. I think all of us, that's a realization that we're really having. And so for those who are already very tuned into technology, they're finding themselves now using it more than ever. And for those who may not have been so technologically savvy, they're learning pretty quickly how to be technologically savvy. It's necessary during this time. And so use that technology to your advantage, video conferencing, Zoom, and use that to stay connected to your coworkers. Continue having regular meetings. If you're not, if regular meetings are not part of your job or they're not being scheduled right now, then check in with each other and say, hey, can we just talk about, this work thing that we're working on, or this so-and-so project I'd just really like to brainstorm and hash this out. We really underestimate the value of having that camaraderie with other people, and it's really easy to feel disconnected from work when you're at home and you're feeling isolated. Some people, because of all the stress that they're going through, may be feeling unmotivated, may not be feeling just very connected to their job without having that physical environment that they're going into every day. And so definitely make sure that you use that technology and stay in touch and have regular meetings with coworkers. Number 8 is to avoid cabin fever, make sure to go outside as much as possible. And so that could be whatever you enjoy. If you enjoy running, go ahead and run. But if you don't, then don't. But there is a lot of research that shows that being outside in nature it does induce feelings of relaxation and calm. And when you are more relaxed and more calm, that also helps with your attention. And if you have better attention, you tend to be more productive. And so this is kind of a good chain reaction. And so that could be walking outside, that could be with social distancing, of course, having a picnic outside, that could be, if you have a backyard, sitting outside every once in a while to read, whatever you can do to make sure that you avoid that cabin fever and can be outside. Maybe you'll start a new gardening project. So whatever you enjoy. Number 9, to remain connected, it's important as well to remain connected not just to your coworkers, but also to friends and family outside of work. It helps to give meaning to your life, so that your life doesn't just become about being enclosed in your home and doing work. Being able to take time to enjoy others outside of work, enjoy others outside of your household. At this point, on day, who knows what it is, of quarantine, it might be easy to be a little frustrated and maybe a little exasperated by people that you're staying with and that you've been confined with for a long period. And so make sure that you continue those relationships and preserve those relationships with others outside of your household, using FaceTime, Zoom, Google Hangouts, whatever platform you prefer to use, or just the plain old phone if you'd like. And then last but not least, and I said that I would be repeating this a few times because it definitely bears repeating, is be easy on yourself. Be aware of the fact that all of us are coping with extenuating circumstances, and there's a lot that's going on right now, and we're all doing the best that we can. And so you're doing the best that you can too. And so try to keep that in mind as you're going through this, and as you hopefully can implement some of these tips. And at the end of the day, just try the best that you can. And if you don't get there today, then you can try for it again tomorrow. And so that's all that I have for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, my name is Dr. Adeline Leon. I'm a neuropsychologist at Baptist Health. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And everyone, please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.